Billionaire Richard Whittaker sat in first-class seat 2A, utterly defeated. His 6-month-old daughter Emma had been screaming for 3 straight hours on their transatlantic flight, and nothing, money, power, or logic, could stop her. The flight attendants had tried every trick they knew, and Richard, a man who commanded global respect in the boardroom, now found himself helpless before an infant. Every eye in first class was on him, irritated, judgmental, and exhausted. He had bounced her, rocked her, changed her diaper, and even pressed his expensive noise-canceling headphones against her ears to play soothing classical music. Nothing worked. The atmosphere had grown tense. A businessman in seat 1 muttered that babies didn't belong in first class. A glamorous woman in 3B rolled her eyes, typing furiously on her phone, probably complaining about inconsiderate parents. Richard wanted to vanish. Then something unexpected happened. A boy, no older than 16, appeared at the curtain between economy and first class. His clothes were neat but worn, his backpack patched with duct tape. He looked completely out of place among the polished suits and designer handbags. "May I help?" the boy asked softly, his calm voice somehow cutting through Emma's cries. Richard, desperate and beyond pride, nodded without hesitation. The moment the teenager's hands touched Emma, the screaming stopped. A silence fell so complete that the cabin seemed to hold its breath. The boy held the baby with practiced confidence, humming a gentle tune and applying soft pressure along her back. Slowly, Emma's tear-streaked face relaxed. Her tiny fists unclenched. She looked up at the boy, mesmerized. "How did you do that?" Richard whispered, astonished. "My baby sister had colic." The boy said simply, "It took me months to figure out what worked." Richard looked closer and noticed patches on the boy's backpack, math competition badges, each one earned through effort and brilliance. "What's your name?" he asked. "Noah Simon. I'm 16, from Southside Chicago. I'm headed to London for the International Mathematics Competition." The realization hit Richard like a wave. This boy, who had just brought peace to his flight and comfort to his daughter, wasn't a trained professional. He was a gifted kid from one of the toughest neighborhoods in America, carrying a story that went far beyond genius. Richard was the 42-year-old CEO of Whittaker Technologies, an $8 billion artificial intelligence company. He was traveling to London for meetings that could shape the future of his empire. Normally, he'd travel alone, but his wife, Sarah, was recovering from emergency surgery and insisted he go. "Take Emma," she'd said. "It's only 5 days. How hard can it be?" The nanny he'd hired had canceled last minute, and now here he was, an exhausted father on a luxury flight, completely undone by a baby. Meanwhile, in economy, Noah had spent the first part of the flight studying for the competition that could change his life. His community back home had raised money for his ticket. Church bake sales, neighborhood car washes, every dollar scraped together so he could have a shot at an MIT scholarship. When he'd heard Emma's cries, he recognized the familiar rhythm of colic pain, the same sound his baby sister had made night after night. He'd been afraid to interfere, knowing how people might react to a black teenager approaching a billionaire in first class. But compassion won out over caution. Now, as Emma slept peacefully in his arms, Noah didn't see a billionaire or a high-class passenger. He saw a father who needed help. How long will she stay calm? Richard asked in disbelief. "Hopefully the rest of the flight," Noah said. "The pressure's gone. She's relaxed now." The entire cabin seemed to exhale. The complaining passengers now watched with admiration. Even the flight attendants were in awe. "You're a miracle worker," Richard said. Noah smiled modestly. "Just experience." When the plane landed, Richard felt something shift inside him. He wasn't just grateful, he was curious. "You said you're going to London for the math competition?" "Yes, sir. It's my one chance to earn a scholarship." Richard listened, fascinated, as Noah explained his journey. How he taught himself math through library books and online lectures, won local and state competitions, and now represented his entire community on the world stage. "How are you funding your stay in London?" Richard asked. "My neighborhood raised money," Noah said. "People who don't have much gave what they could." Richard was silent for a moment, deeply moved. This young man had talent, humility, and drive. The kind of rare combination that could change the world if nurtured. Then Richard made a decision. Noah, I have an offer for you. I need someone to help with Emma during my meetings in London. I'll pay you $500 a day, cover your hotel, and make sure you have transportation to and from the competition. Noah was stunned. $500 a day? Sir, that's what professional nannies charge, Richard interrupted. You're clearly more qualified than most. Noah hesitated. I'm grateful, sir, but I need to stay focused on my competition. My future depends on it. Of course, Richard said kindly. You'll have plenty of study time. I just need your help for a few hours each day. He leaned forward. Noah, in 3 hours, you've shown more character and intelligence than most people I've met in decades. You could have ignored us, but you didn't. You acted with courage and compassion. That's rare. Noah looked thoughtful. Can I think about it? Of course, Richard replied, then added quietly. My foundation also funds scholarships for students like you. Whatever happens at the competition, I'd like to discuss supporting your education. As the plane descended into London, Noah realized this unexpected meeting might be the turning point of his entire life. When they landed, Noah turned to Richard and said, Sir, I accept your offer. I'll help with Emma. Richard smiled, relieved. Together, they exited the plane, a billionaire, a baby, and a teenage prodigy, an unlikely trio about to change each other's lives forever. London greeted them with a soft drizzle and a gray sky that mirrored the city's quiet elegance. Richard's driver met them at Heathrow, and as they rode through the city toward the Whitaker Tower Hotel, Noah pressed his face against the window, captivated by the skyline. For a boy who had never left Chicago, the city looked like a dream made of glass and history. Emma slept peacefully in her car seat beside him, and Richard, exhausted but strangely content, watched them both with a feeling he couldn't name. For years, his life had been built around success, power, and control. But something about Noah's presence, the honesty in his eyes, the humility in his words, had cracked open a space inside him that had long been sealed shut. The following morning, Noah arrived at Richard's suite, wearing the same patch backpack, but a clean shirt and bright determination. Richard had a full day of meetings, but before leaving, he noticed Emma cooing in Noah's arms as if they'd known each other for years. You have a gift, Richard said, shaking his head. She doesn't even smile at her nanny. Noah shrugged shyly. Babies just want to feel safe. I guess she knows I get it. When Richard returned that evening, the suite smelled like baby lotion and laughter. Emma was sleeping, and Noah sat at the desk, solving advanced math problems on scrap paper. His handwriting was meticulous, his focus absolute. How was the competition? Richard asked, loosening his tie. Preliminary rounds tomorrow. Noah said, not looking up, I'm ready. I've been studying in every break. Richard smiled. Reminds me of myself at your age. Were you good at math, too? I was obsessed, Richard admitted. But I had tutors, scholarships, every advantage money could buy. You've done it alone, and that's far more impressive. That night, after Noah left for his hostel, Richard sat by the window holding his sleeping daughter. He thought about everything the boy had said, the bake sales, the community's faith in him, his quiet strength. It reminded Richard of what he'd lost over the years. Purpose. He had built an empire, yes, but somewhere along the way, he had forgotten what it meant to believe in someone. The next few days passed quickly. Each morning, Noah cared for Emma while Richard attended meetings. Each afternoon, Noah competed in the math rounds, steadily advancing toward the finals. Every evening, they talked about life, ambition, and the invisible weight of expectations. Do you ever feel like people only see your money, not you? Noah asked one night, as they walked along the Thames. Richard nodded. All the time. But sometimes I think I made it that way. It's easier for people to see the armor than the man. And for me, Noah said quietly, it's the opposite. People see the kid from South Side before they see the mathematician. They looked at each other, two lives on opposite ends of fortune, yet strangely parallel. On the day of the final round, Noah wore the same patch backpack. Before leaving, he knelt beside Emma's stroller and whispered, Wish me luck, little one. She giggled and grabbed his finger, and Richard felt an unexpected lump in his throat. Hours later, in the grand hall of the International Mathematics Competition, Richard sat in the audience. He had cleared his schedule and canceled meetings worth millions just to be there. He watched Noah on stage, confident, brilliant, calm, as he solved a complex problem no one else could crack. When the judges announced the results, the hall erupted. Noah had placed first. Tears welled in his eyes as he clutched the gold medal. He turned and saw Richard standing at the back, holding Emma, applauding with pride. After the ceremony, reporters swarmed, cameras flashing, questions flying. But Noah's eyes found only one face in the crowd. Richard stepped forward, shook his hand firmly, and said, "You didn't just win a medal. You won your future." That evening, Richard invited Noah to dinner at the Savoy. Between bites of steak and laughter over baby food splatters, Richard finally said what had been on his mind since the flight. "Noah, I don't just want to help you. I want to invest in you. I've spoken to my foundation. We're offering you a full scholarship to any university you choose. Tuition, housing, everything." Noah's fork froze midair. "Sir, I don't know what to say." "Say yes," Richard said gently. "Because one day you'll be the one giving someone else their chance." Noah's eyes filled with tears. "Thank you, Mr. Whitaker. I won't waste it." "I know you won't," Richard replied. When it was time for Noah to fly home, Emma refused to let go of him. She clung to his shirt, her small hands gripping tightly, as if she understood that saying goodbye meant losing something special. "Looks like someone doesn't want you to leave," Richard said with a sad smile. "I'll visit," Noah promised, tickling her chin. "After all, she's my first client." Richard laughed. "And my first hero in a long time." As Noah disappeared into the crowd at Heathrow, Richard stood for a long time, holding his daughter and thinking about how the smallest act, one teenager stepping forward on a flight, had changed two lives forever. Months later, a letter arrived at Richard's office. Inside was a photo of Noah on the campus of MIT, grinning under a banner that read, "Class of 2029. Beneath it, in neat handwriting, were the words, "For Emma, the baby who taught me courage. For Mr. Whitaker, the man who reminded me that kindness still matters." Richard smiled, set the letter down, and looked out at the skyline. The world had grown a little softer, a little brighter. All because, once upon a flight, a boy with a patched backpack had stopped a baby from crying, and, in doing so, taught a billionaire how to feel again.